Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Yes, I'm actually still alive. I know it's been a very long time since I uploaded, but I'm glad I'm finally back. Hopefully you guys feel the same way, and if you're wondering why I've been away, just take a look at the description or the comments. I'll try to explain the entire story there. But for now, let's get straight into the video. In this unit overview, we'll be taking a look at the new Squig units introduced in the King and the Warlord DLC for Total War Warhammer. According to the lore, Squigs is short for squiggly beasts, and they are considered to be the simplest form of greenskins. The life of a squig pretty much consists of eating anything unlucky enough to cross his path. Dwarves, humans, orcs, a squig does not care, as long as it fits into his giant mouth. Squigs resemble fleshy balls with legs to jump forward and very large teeth and spikes to make short work of its food. The squigs in the game are cave squigs kept by night goblins, and they are used in battles either as mounts or herds. There are two main Squig units in this piece of DLC, the Squig Herd and the Night Goblin Squig Hoppers. Besides these two, we'll also be taking a look at the Durkit Squigs, a Regiment of Reknown version of the Squig Hoppers. In order to recruit the main units in the campaign, you will have to create a specific new building that was introduced in this DLC. It's actually quite simple. You can recruit both the Herd and the Hoppers from the Squig Cages building, which is constructable in every tier 3 settlement, both normal regions and provincial capitals. No other building is needed, which means they're already available early in the campaign. The standard upkeep cost is 125 talents for the Squig Herd and 137 talents for the Squig Hoppers. Do keep in mind that you need to research the new Squig riding technology before you're able to recruit the Hoppers though. The Regiment of Reknown version of the Hoppers is unlocked when a Lord reaches level 5, which is also quite early in the Greenskin campaign. So now let's take a look at the stats and battle performance of the Squig units. The Night Goblin Squig Hoppers are classified as a light cavalry unit and come at a cost of 650 talents. This means they are a little cheaper than the Boar Boys, but more expensive than the Spider and Wolf Riders. Their unit size is normal for cavalry, however they do have a low amount of hit points compared to similar cav units as you can see here, so the Squig Hoppers are quite low on HP for their price. They only have 25 armor as well, which is extremely low, and that definitely makes them very vulnerable to missile fire. One of their advantages is speed and mobility though. 84 speed is extremely good, and their charge bonus of 40 is also quite high for a light cavalry unit. This is not just another fast unit for the greenskins like spiders and wolves though, as the combat stats are also quite decent and special. A melee defense and attack of 22 isn't great, however they do have access to poison attacks, which lower the stats of any engaged enemies. This is also the only cavalry unit in the game with a bonus versus infantry, apart from chariots. The general stats might not look amazing, however because of the poison attacks and the bonus versus infantry, the Squigs are actually quite deadly in certain situations, and I will show you that later in the video. All Squigs also have access to Vanguard deployment, so you can deploy them anywhere on the battle map. Let's first test the Night Goblin Squig Hoppers in cavalry engagements. First against a unit of Empire Knights, which is much more expensive cavalry compared to the Squig Hoppers. The Squigs do take down some hit points on the charge, however after that it's nothing special. The Empire Knights will destroy the Squigs simply because of their high armor and the low armor of the Squigs themselves. The following fight is against Vampire Black Knights, and that demonstrates the same thing. Black Knights are almost as expensive as the Squigs, but do have 80 armor and a shield, and the same thing happens, decent damage on the charge for the Squigs, but eventually the Squigs just can't deal enough damage in prolonged melee combat while taking a lot of damage themselves because of their lack of armor. Things change when we let the Squig Hoppers fight low armored cavalry units though, for example the Orc Boar Boys. The Squigs will still lose the fight, but they already perform much better. They even managed to win against a Bretonnian mounted yeoman for example, which is also a cavalry unit with very low armor. The same thing happens when the Squigs fight the low armored Spider Riders, another pretty convincing victory. To conclude this, Night Goblin Squig Hoppers are definitely not meant for cavalry engagements in general because of their low armor and lack of armor piercing damage, but they are able to perform decently against low armored cavalry like spiders and wolf riders. Let's test them against infantry now, where their bonus versus infantry comes into play. First, a head-on charge against low armored Empire swordsmen. As you can see, the Squigs are already dealing significant damage on the charge, and they eventually manage to break the enemy unit. If we repeat the same test with the more expensive armor piercing Boar Boys, we're seeing something different. Their charge is great as well, but eventually they will even lose the fight against the swordmen. If we take a look at both units at the same time, you can definitely spot the difference here. Both charges are really good, but however you can immediately see that the Squigs will kill the unit much faster, all because of the extra bonus versus infantry the Squig Hoppers get. Things change a little when the units fight a heavily armored unit like greatswords though. The boar boys are now able to take full advantage of their armor piercing attacks. The Squigs are lacking those armor piercing attacks, however because of the bonus versus infantry and poison attacks, they're still able to kill off even more greatswords than the boars did. Considering their great mobility, anti-infantry stats and fairly low price, this might be a good cost-effective unit for the greenskins. Get around enemy flanks quickly with their speed and vanguard deployment and then deliver a devastating rear charge in the enemy lines, all for only 650 talents, which is quite cheap for such a multifunctional unit. As I mentioned before, there's also a Regiment or Reknown version of the Night Goblin Squig Hoppers called Durkit Squigs. They cost 100 talents more, 750 talents, and deliver higher melee attack, melee defense and morale. Or leadership in this game of course. Besides this, they also have access to 25% missile resistance. They are just a slightly better version of the normal Squig Hoppers, but nothing special in my opinion. 25% resistance to missile fire is good, but nothing extremely exciting. The other Squig unit is the Squig Herd, and they are classified as a war beast unit, just like the dire wolves for the vampires and the warhounds for the chaos warriors. If we compare these units, we can see that the Squigs come with lower hit points and a much smaller unit size and low leadership. They are also slower than the wolves, but overall still quite fast. Every other stat is better though. They have a good amount of armor, a great charge bonus, but most of all amazing weapon strength with a bonus versus infantry, but also armor piercing attacks this time. They do lose the poison attacks though that the Squig Hoppers had. In my opinion, they are far better than the hounds and the wolves. In a 1v1 engagement, Squigs will absolutely demolish the dire wolves. The Squigs also have access to a very unique ability and new ability called Squigs Go Wild. Once the Squigs are in melee and their leadership is wavering, this ability will automatically activate itself and it will give the Squigs more armor piercing damage, more melee attack, an ability to cause fear, and it will make them unbreakable. In this engagement, the Squigs are fighting against the far better Empire Knights. They will start to waver very soon, but once that happens they will suddenly become unbreakable and much better, as you can clearly see here. This will keep them in a fight for at least 15 more seconds, which gives them the ability to deal more damage than normal Warhound or other cavalry units. The Squig Herd is still not meant for cavalry engagement though, and will even lose against the Night Goblin Squig Hoppers. It's more interesting to take a look at their performance against infantry of course. In this engagement I got both the Squig Hoppers and the Squig Herd against normal Empire swordsmen. They will both do very well and rout their units almost at the same time. In this fight they are up against greatswords, and that means that the armor piercing attacks and the Squigs Go Wild ability will come into play. Now you will see that the Squig Herd definitely outperforms the Squig Hoppers. They almost managed to win the fight against the greatswords in a head-on engagement, which is quite special and interesting. Even though greatswords are almost twice as expensive, the Squig Herd still does very well against them. To conclude all of this, I must definitely admit that both the Squig Herd and the Squig Hoppers are excellent cost-effective units for the greenskins. Both perform really well for the price because of the unique ability bonuses the Squigs get. The Night Goblin Squig Hoppers are a little better against cavalry and low armored infantry, while the Squig Herd does excellent damage against heavily armored targets. I really think these units should be used as anti-infantry forces who can outflank the enemy very quickly in order to engage battle lines in the rear. Keep in mind that they are very vulnerable to heavy cavalry though, and their low armor also makes them an easy target for enemy artillery and skirmishers. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you think of the Squigs and video in the comments down below. Thanks for watching and I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.